Hi and welcome to this short movie where we're going to take a look at one of my favourite modules, the Insemination Analysis module in your UNIFORM program. So if we go to the cow's head, we go to fertility, and then we'll right click on the module, left click, and we then add it to our favourites. If we go into the module, the first thing that you'll see is the Q sum. So this is a really clever graphic interpretation of the outcome of the services. So if we have a look first of all, and we look at this line here, this cow was unsuccessful because the line is going down. The next cow, and you can see the cow on the right hand side and who she was served to, that was successful. The next one's successful, the next one's successful, and so on. The line is going up because every service is successful. So what we'd end up with if every service was great and every cow was pregnant is just one insemination to get the cows in calf. But what we can see here is that at the moment we're running around 1.8 inseminations. So we have a line in the yellow line, that's 2 inseminations to get the cows in calf, and the blue line is our target. We then see this grey line here, and this block of information, what it's telling us is that all the services in this period were unsuccessful because we've had no PDs. That's all it means. So if we just take the cursor across, we can see the period where we had our last PD results. So because we haven't done a PD session, we only know the outcome of the services that were unsuccessful because we saw the cow in heat or we inseminated the cow. So that's why the line is going down. Then on the right hand side, you'll see that we can filter. So if we take off the first, second and older cows and we just have a look, for example, at the young stock, what we can now see is the outcome of the last 100 inseminations for our young stock. And we can see there we're running around 1.5 inseminations to get them in calf. So we'll take the young stock off and pop the cows back on. And I'm going to show you 2 more settings in here. The one is we can filter. So on the left hand side, what you'll see here is we can filter for whether she had a retained placenta, calving ease, and whether we're recording body condition score. We can also look on the milk side and we can look at fat and protein ratios. We can look at 305 day production and see if that's had an influence. And I really like this one here because what we can do here is we can really drill down and only show inseminations from specific bulls or from specific inseminators. And as I said, we also have the opportunity there with body condition scores as well and voluntary waiting periods. So if we want to apply the filter, that's where we can do it. Select the filter and then hit apply filter. We're looking at the last 100 inseminations, but we can do much more than that. So if we go to properties, the first bit, we're actually defining the period that we want to look at. So if you want to go further back, you can obviously do that. You could also say, I only want to look at the last 500 inseminations, so you could change it, the figure in there, or just take it out, and that will then give you the results from that service period that you selected with the start date and with the end date. You can also filter so that you only look at specific groups. And with barn groups, we can also do that as well. So there's the 2 options there we can select. And you'll see here, we can also change the voluntary waiting period as well, and then the age that we start serving young stock. So those are filters, and those are different settings that we can use, and we'll say OK to that. And we now see a different graph because what we have here is the outcome of the services over the last service year. If you want to drill down on that, you can. So if we select a period where things seem to be going slightly awry, we can just click and drag, and you'll see that then opens it up. So it's a little bit like looking at the last 100 inseminations, but in fact we're just looking at a period within that service year. And again, the logic's the same. If you put the cursor over the service, you can see the date and who she was served to. Then if you just want to click and drag and take it back again, that will take you to the report. Okay, the next one is days to first insemination. So it's really handy just to find out if people are following protocols. So they're really sticking to it here. The voluntary waiting period is set at 60 days. And what you've got is each dot is a cow. And the colour denotes whether that service, this is the first service, remember, whether that service was successful. So if it's red, she didn't hold. And if it's green, she obviously did. She held to the first service. And you'll also notice towards the end there, we've got just the yellow ones. Those are animals that have been inseminated, and we can see how many days in milk they were, but we don't know the result yet because they haven't reached the age to days in milk to be, days served to actually be PD'd. Okay, we also have days to pregnancy. So a lot of information on here. And again, we can filter that for first calvers, second calvers, and older cows. Then finally, we have the grid. And we can filter on this as well, so we can sort by days in milk and insemination. These are all things that we can select. We also have a really good pack. So if we go to the summary report, this is one that we use a lot. First of all, we have the graphs, but this is really good to print off for your vet or fertility consultant. And I think some people look at this and they then close it because they think that's all it is. But you'll see on the left-hand side, if we go to the green, it then takes us to the next page. And we go again, and then we really start getting a breakdown. So we can break it down by the individual bull, by that period, whether it was sex semen or not. We can look at the individual inseminator. We can even break it down again then for sex semen. So that's a really good pack. And then finally, if we're using any form of a managed heat, we can then compare a natural heat with a managed heat, and if it's a managed heat, see how effective that had been. So a lot of information there just in that one module. So we'll just close it and close it again. There it is, Insemination Analysis. If you have any questions, please call the help desk and we'll be very happy to take you through it.